red, reminding us of the importance of the campfire in the coming season. Lovely leaf. And it has this edible fruit on it. These are service berries. You can call them checkers as well, that's another name for them. In the past people used to sell them, and yet it's one of the wild fruits that's been forgotten today. The Prime Minister's house, Chequers, is named after these fruits. These ones are a little bit yellow yet, and they are not quite ripe. What you have to look for is this dark reddy brown colour like that one, when they turn really soft and squidgy. Oh, that's really nice. Beautiful eating. Really nice. And quite delicious, but it's very important to spit out the seeds because they contain cyanide. Our ancestors would certainly have made use of these berries, and maybe, like in other parts of the world, the berries could have been ground up and heated to drive out the cyanide from the seeds. We'll never know. There's very little cyanide in the seeds of wild serviceberry, and you'd have to eat a lot of them to be poisoned. However, the woods are full of plants which contain varying degrees of toxins which we need to be aware of. In fact, most woodland plants that you see in the spring and summer, including bluebells, wood anemones and foxgloves, are all poisonous. This is quite an unusual plant. It's quite rare. It's called herb Paris quadrifolia. Beautiful plant. And that berry there, well, that's very poisonous. In fact, the whole plant is poisonous. How our ancestors figured out what they could eat, what they couldn't, we'll never know. We can only guess that they must have experimented with things. This is deadly nightshade, also known as belladonna, which means beautiful woman. It comes from a time when women would touch the berries and then their eyes, so dilating them to make them more attractive. Highly dangerous though, as the berries contain atropine, making them lethal. What interests us is whether our hunter-gatherer ancestors might have made more use of poisonous plants, perhaps even processing them to make some of them edible.
Well, here we have a plant, quite a common plant, called the black bryony, that has poisonous berries, poisonous leaves, and also a poisonous root. Now, the thing is, that root is quite big, and it contains, we suspect, a lot of starch. In fact, sometimes it's absolutely huge.
So we're keen to find out whether or not this root might have been eaten by our ancestors. But first, it needs digging up. A few months ago, Gordon and I travelled to Australia to spend time with Aboriginal people who still use many of their traditional hunter-gatherer skills. This is the cheeky yam, which is related to black bryony and is also poisonous. We observed how they made it edible. The first step was to cook it over a fire sealed by bark and soil.
So what we're going to do is follow their procedure in putting it on the fire, first of all, in the hot embers of the fire we've got here. Then we're going to cover it with hazel leaves to keep it clean, and then cover it with earth and leave it for an hour to bake.
The next step our Australian friends used was to grate the cooked yams, ingeniously using an adapted snail shell as a grater. The grated yam was then put in a bag and immersed in a river overnight to wash out the poison. Gordon now grates the cooked black bryony root and will leave it to leach in the same way.
We'll leave it in the stream for about a day. Even then, though, we won't actually try tasting it because it's too dangerous, too dodgy, especially if the method hasn't worked. So we're going to get it analysed in a laboratory in London and see if indeed this method has been successful in getting rid of these toxins.
This has got to be one of the most exciting environments in the south of England. A freshwater chalk stream. It's beautiful, it's so clear. You can see the fish in here really easily. Of course, from our ancestors' point of view, it meant food. Trout, eels, and back in those days, this would have been the sort of place you'd have come looking for spawning salmon as well. But there's another type of food in here as well, crayfish. And I've actually got a trap in here to see if I can get some. Let's see what we've got. And there we go. We've had some luck in there, some big ones in there. Now the crayfish I've got in here, these are not our native crayfish. These are an invader that have found their way into our rivers and sadly carry a fungal disease which infects our native population and destroys them. So it's good to take these out of the water, and they're going to be very nice eating. I'm going to cook the crayfish on skewers beside the fire, and to make those I'm using this wood here. This is dogwood. It has black berries on it, but they're not edible. And you see this time of year, now the autumn's here, it's turning purple colour. If you break the leaves in half, you break them gently, you'll find that from the veins in the leaf there's little threads that hold the two together. That shows you that it's a true dogwood. It's a useful tip for identifying trees in other parts of the world. And some people say that it gets its name from the Old English dagwood, which means skewer wood, and it's certainly brilliant for that purpose. You can see here what I've made already. You can carve it very thin, and it's very stiff. It's ideal for the job.
I dispatch the crayfish quickly by cutting their spinal cord, and then there's a nifty trick for removing the innards.
You take that central fin and you pull it till it goes click, pull it back the other way till it goes click. Now when you pull straight back, out comes the alimentary canal. And that's where I'm going to now push my skewer straight in like that. And that goes over in the heat of the fire. Once they're done, they'll be red all over, and the tail flesh should be cloudy, not translucent in any way. You get a little bit of smoke comes out the hole where I killed them. And they're very hot, so you need to let them cool down. These shells hold the heat. If you try to break that open straight away, you're guaranteed to burn your fingers. Oh yeah, that's just about handled that now. Break the tail away from the body like that. Beautiful. There's the crayfish tail. Oh, that is fabulous. Really nice. The good thing about these American crayfish, there is also some meat in the claw. Wonderful bit of wild food, delicious eating. That's delicious.
Gordon has come to King's College, where under the supervision of Dr. Tony Leeds, they have the results of the black bryony testing. We'd like to know more about the poison present in this plant and whether